This is Complete Politics with Chukuma Okoro. Just take a listen to this.
God, a lot of things are happening. We thank God for the revelations coming out of Nigeria. For everything that has a beginning must always have an end, so says a very popular saying. One of the biggest secrets in Nigeria is the secret of the Fulani terrorism. The Nigerian government don't like saying it because of so much complicity of government officials, starting from the highest level of Nigerian politics. The ministers, the senators, governors, a lot of people, the Fulani oligarchs. That's one of the best kept secrets in the world, the Fulani terrorism. And so when Nigerian politicians and those who are accomplices of the Fulani terrorism are talking and addressing the world, they will be using the smoke screen of the Boko Haram narrative or the ISWAP narrative to cover the Fulani terrorism. Meanwhile, the worst, the most lethal terrorist organization in Nigeria is the Fulani terrorism. Now, Nigeria's government made a mistake. In an effort to launder her image over the calls by the United Nations to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, and the Senate Bill 2747 moved by Senator Ted Cruz to that effect in the US Congress, Nigeria's government has gone into a panic mode, releasing press releases at every time, organizing people to go on air to counter that narrative. And then they've been bringing a lot of Christians. They've infiltrated even the Christian Association of Nigeria, to counter the narrative of the killing, the obvious truth of the killing of Christians, targeted killing of Christians in Nigeria, the big genocide happening in Nigeria. And so the mistake they made happened just 3 days ago, when the office of the National Security Advisor himself, a Fulani, of course he will never admit to Fulani terrorism, no Ribadu, and the very popular political jobber called Reno Omokri, who is the current Minister of Propaganda in Nigeria after Joseph Goebbels. Joseph Goebbels should be his model. That's the Minister of Propaganda of Adolf Hitler, of Nazi. That's a guy whose only role is to sell his soul and begin to give dash out propaganda of any type, any kind, in the defense of where he's getting his means for survival. And so Reno Omokri is one of the guys that have been going up and down saying there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria. And so to that effect, they invited some Americans to Nigeria to come on a fact finding, thinking Americans are like Nigeria that can be compromised and bought so easily. And that's their biggest mistake. And this served as the nemesis for Nigeria, and those guys have brought out the truth right now. So if some of you have watched Reno Omokri 3 days on TV, he was on Arise TV with two other Americans, one of which was Mayor Mike Arnold, former mayor of Blanco, the city of Blanco in Texas. So today, or rather on Tuesday, 14th of October, 2025, the mayor who has gone on a fact-finding mission and has met different stakeholders, has gone to the IDP camps, has met traditional rulers, have met governors, have met ministers, have met two former presidents, compiles his report, and I'll give you an extract from his report. He said, formal statement on widespread violence and displacement in Nigeria by Mayor Mike Arnold, founder Africa Arise International. Now, let's jump to this section we are more concerned with. He said, what is happening in Nigeria is a systematic terror, not grazing conflict. That's what we've been saying. He said it's a lie akin to calling the Bosnian ethnic cleansing a neighborhood spat. So when you call the ethnic cleansing of Christians by the Fulanis, and then you describe it the way the Nigerian government described it as pharmaceutical plants, you are making it look like you're calling the Bosnian ethnic cleansing in Europe in the 90s as a neighborhood spat because it was happening between the Bosnians and the Serbians. He said these targeted deadly attacks are the same whether labeled as headers, conflict, or insurgent. They are the same with the Bosnian genocide. The puppet may change, but the same force pulls the strings. A jihadi by any other name is just as deadly. Missing words over labels appear to be an intentional obfuscation. That's the government is missing this to just obfuscate, cover the reality of what is happening. And this is what we've been saying all the while. He continued, he said, while global attention often focuses on Boko Haram and ISWAP, that's the truth of it, because Nigeria knows that the world attention is focused on Boko Haram, which is popular in Nigeria, and ISWAP. So they try to cover the narrative of the Fulani terrorism. The majority of killings and displacement across Nigeria's Middle Belt are in fact carried out by the radical Islamic Fulani ethnic militia. This is the report of Mayor Mike Arnold, just on Tuesday in Abuja, Transcorp Hilton, the press release. The American that was invited by the Nigerian government on a fact-finding mission. He says numerous field reports, satellite imagery, we told you about American technology. He says satellite imagery and survivor testimonies confirm that these Fulani militant groups often operated under political protection. They've been getting political protection and mislabeled as headers are responsible for the most widespread, systematic, and sustained attacks on Christian farming communities in Plateau State, in Benue State, in Southern Kaduna State, in Taraba State. Their campaign extends well beyond traditional grazing disputes, encompassing organized massacres, forced displacement, and the strategic occupation of conquered lands. Today, these Fulani militias represent the single most lethal terrorist threat to Nigeria's internal stability, surpassing Boko Haram and ISWAP combined in reach, in frequency, and in civilian death toll. So, this American who is invited by the Nigerian government is saying the Fulani terrorist threat to internal security of Nigeria and their casualty record surpass that of Boko Haram and ISWAP put together. Is this not what we'll be saying? In conclusion, he says, as an objective expert and eyewitness, a long-time lover of and traveler throughout Nigeria, he's been to Nigeria 16 times, with access at the highest levels, based on more than 5 years of investigation, field interviews, first-hand documentation, and deep consultation with top scholars, statesmen, and legal experts. I declare this without any shadow of a doubt. This is the conclusion now. That the campaign of violence and displacement in northern and middle belt of Nigeria does indeed constitute a calculated, current, and long-running genocide against Christian communities and other religious minorities without any reasonable doubt. That is the report of the former mayor of Blanco in the state of Texas, United States, who was invited by the Nigerian government 2 days ago, and he presented this as his formal statement on October 14, Tuesday, at Transcorp Hilton in a press conference. This same press conference has been censored by the Nigerian government. They made sure it doesn't come out. They made sure they obfuscate the press conference so that they can continue to carry their narrative of the fact that no, what we are witnessing in Nigeria is just a terrorism that's happening in the north where they are killing Christians and they are killing Muslims together. But what we are saying is that yes, they may be killing Muslims in an act of terrorism and banditry in the northwest and terrorism in the northeast, but Christian communities have been targeted for genocide by particularly the Fulani terrorists. And thank God that the world is knowing about this. Abraham Lincoln once said that you can fool some of the people all the time and all the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. So this is the nemesis of Nigeria's government now. We will continue this fight, we will continue this advocacy, and truth will be revealed at the end of the day and will achieve success. I end this with a quote from one of my mentors of the past, Winston Spencer Churchill, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during the Second World War. He said, if you ask me our aim, I can answer just in one word: victory. Victory at all cost. Victory in spite of terror. Victory however long and hard the road may be. For without victory, there can be no survival.